Okay, today we're going to be making a video for the cap replacement for the pump capping station unit, which would be like this. The reason we have to change this is that every 3 to 6 months the rubber lining of the cap starts to harden due to the inks being alcohol based. Once it's hardened, it no longer creates an airtight seal on the print heads. So in cleanings it's not suctioning correctly. A good way to do that is if you perform a power clean. When you perform a power clean with the side cover off, you'll see that there's these two tubes. If you don't see ink pulling from both of the tubes or only coming out of one individual tube, then you know there's something wrong with the cap and it has to be replaced. And this is something you're going to see about every 3 to 6 months with the solvent option printer. So today you're going to need a cap, a Phillips screwdriver, some type of tweezer or small pliers to disconnect and reconnect the tubes. Okay? So first we're going to start with the Phillips screwdriver. First thing you want to do is push the blue solenoid, push the carriage unit over so it could get underneath to the capping station. Then you're going to have one screw on the inside part down here. It's going to be right there on the inside. Okay, we're going to remove that one inside corner screw. So if you're standing here on the right side of the printer, looking down, it's going to be the one on the bottom right. Okay, that screw's removed. Now we're going to go into the bottom section of the printer, underneath the capping station unit. Now that we've removed that screw, that allows us to move this plastic plate here. If you push it up here on the right side, and then with your left fingers slide it through, you could take out this plastic tray. As you're taking it out, you want to be careful because these two tubes normally will have ink, and this is where the ink flows through. So if you want to wear gloves, or just make sure you don't get splatter all over the cables. So you can see here we have a little bit of residue on these tubes. So I'm just going to get these two tubes. If you stick it under here, you can pull it through back like this. And now the two tubes are out of the way. So now we're going to go back to the top section. So we're going to remove the old cap by pulling this back. Then once you have this back, if you push the cap down, and then this way, then it releases. You'll see that right over here is where it locks in place, like so. So if you just push down and to the right, it'll pop out, and now your cap is loose. Now you want to grab the two tubes on the bottom and yank it off. Now we have removed the cap. Okay? So you want to hold on to the spring. You want to put that aside. Make sure you don't lose that spring. As well as the two tubes on the cap. We're going to take these off. And now we're going to get the new cap and put the tubes back on. Here. You want to make sure that they're all the way on. One thing to pay attention to is sometimes when you take it off, you have the liquid on the inside and on this part. Try to get it as dry as possible, so when you connect it, it's stuck on there and not so slippery and easily just going to pop right off. Okay. Now when we're putting this back in, this is the way it should look. And the silver spring should be here on this side. Okay, so now we're going to put the new cap back in. So now that we've connected the tubes to the new cap, we're going to get that metal spring again. You'll see that there's grooves here on the bottom part. This just goes right and lines up on the outside grooves, like so. Okay, and then we're going to get this and put it back into the machine. So you also see down here there's also a groove for that metal spring. We're just going to line that up, make sure it sits right in. So then we have the cap like that, and we're going to do the same thing, the opposite of before. We're just going to push the cap down and lock it in place. Okay, do that one more time. We're just going to push the cap down, move it to the left, and lock it in place. So you see that it's in there pretty good. Now we're going to go back to the bottom. We're going to grab the tray. Actually, before the tray, we're going to have to reconnect the two black tubes. Okay. So from the bottom, I guess this is where it gets a little tricky. You want to get your tweezers or your pliers. And from here, from the bottom, if you could see this white fitting that sticks out right here, we're trying to reconnect the tubes to these two fittings. Sometimes it's easy to line it up with your fingers and then follow through with the tweezers. So we've got that one tube on. Now we just have to get this last tube connected. Okay, so now we've connected the two tubes here. The one with the metal spring is here facing towards us, and then the other one here. Just make sure that they're on pretty snug. You don't want them to come loose. This will cause a lot of issues in startup, and you'll start to see clogs in the print head. Okay, so once we've connected those, you want to come up here to the top, and you want to do this motion onto the cap, because this is what it would be doing in the machine. You want to make sure that as you do this a few times, when you look back to the bottom, that those tubes are still connected. So we're going to go back to the bottom while doing that, and we'll see that in that movement, the two tubes are still there. They haven't come loose, so that's okay. So now we could get the plastic tray, and we're going to have to feed these two clear tubes that we pushed out the way. We're going to pull that back out. We're going to have to feed those two tubes through here under this bar, and it's going to feed into here, and then we're going to have to get the plate back in. So first I'm going to get the two tubes, stick it under this bar, slightly just get the tip of it in there, and then from there I'm going to push the back end of this plate in and up, and then you'll see that there's two little feet sticking out on the plastic plate, and then there's these grooves on the bottom that it's going to fit into and then lock into. So I'm going to push up, get them in place, and now push forward this way, and now it's locked in place. And you'll see that this little plastic piece also has a little nub that feeds through this metal slit. When you see that come down and everything kind of line up, you know you have it in snug and good. Now we're going to go back to the top, get that one screw, and we're going to put that screw back in. Another thing is sometimes that when we feed those tubes, it doesn't fully go all the way through. So what you could do is with that long screwdriver, you could actually see the tubes from the top here. You could get it and actually pinch it and then push it through. Okay. Now we can come back here to look to the bottom. Make sure everything is flush. The cap isn't good, nothing's hanging down. And we've replaced the cap.